here from all corners of the world, basically, as you will be introduced later on. And I would like to say really good morning, good afternoon, good night, each one in their own time zone to everybody. My name is Michal Rimon, and I am the proud CEO of Access Israel. I always say proud. That's my cue for a good webinar. Proud of the projects, proud of the accomplishments, but most of all, proud of the people that make Access Israel what we are. And Access Israel is a nonprofit organization that tries to make Israel accessible and inclusive for people with disabilities and the elderly in Israel, and in the recent years, also very active around the world. And this webinar is one of the fruits of this activity. Before I continue, I would like to say a few important points regarding accessibility. First of all, captioning. There is English captioning, which is provided by Verbit, who you will get to know more later on. If at any point you don't see the captioning and have issues with it, please let us know in the chat. In the chat, you can see Burmese captioning. And again, the captioning is on the bottom. Translation. There is translation from English to Burmese and vice versa. In order to hear the translation, please click on the globe symbol at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Our translator today is Ma Santida. And again, this is my point of apologizing if I mispronunciate any name here. You always can remember that my name is Michal Rimon. It might be difficult for some of you. You can pronounce it however you want. That way we'll be even. Sign language translation. We have two amazing sign language interpreters, and you can pin them. I don't know if everybody here knows, but Zoom has evolved during the Corona time. And one of the new features they have in the last several months is the ability to pin two people in Zoom, so you can see the speaker and the sign language interpreter side by side, and you can see them the whole time. Their names are Ma Mei Nui Nui and Ma Le Wa Luin. I hope I pronounced it okay, and you can really pin them and enjoy the sign language if needed. If you have any questions, please feel free to write us in the chat. You can find our staff member, our leader of this webinar, Sharon Kessler, and you can also write her privately in the chat. We are very excited for this cooperation with Myanmar and this webinar, and specifically with Ambassador Ronen Gilor, who I said last time, but there's new people, so I'm repeating it today. From the beginning of the connection of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Access Israel, Ronen was the Ambassador Ronen Gilor was the one who saw the importance, helped us, and really has been valuable and really one of the great supporters of Access Israel and our path to fulfill our goal for global cooperation, sharing information and knowledge, and basically creating the Access Israel Global Network. So it was only natural that Myanmar will be one of really the countries that are focused in our efforts and cooperation. The idea is we share, you share, we learn from each other, and we make accessibility and inclusion better in both countries together. This is also a good time to say thank you to everybody who helped make this webinar happen. Thank you again to Ambassador Gilor and his staff for the initiative and everything that they did along the way. Vicky Bauman, the director of Myanmar Center for Responsible Business. And thank you, Maya, for helping organizing everything along the way. As we mentioned, in the first webinar, Israel and Myanmar have a long friendship and work together in many aspects. And we are very excited that we can be part of a new cooperation, namely in the field of accessibility and inclusion. People with disabilities are the largest minority in the world, and it's an issue that concerns every country around the world. Accessibility and inclusion is a non-political, non-controversial topic that goes beyond borders, religion, political affiliation. As mentioned, we are strong believers in the importance of working together and sharing information and experience in the field of accessibility. Only that way we will become better, more inclusive, more equal, and faster. In the first webinar, we focused on basic terminology, inclusive employment, and how to make businesses accessible and inclusive for all. It was amazing how we were able to join hand in this initiative, each of us sitting in our comfort of the home, of the office, no need to fly to book a hotel. This was all possible thanks to technology. In every aspect of our life, we see technology taking over. Have you ever thought, though, how this biggest minority in the world uses the technology we are enjoying in our daily lives, in our workplace, at school? And the recent global pandemic, the COVID-19, has really made us all cope with increased dependency on such technologies. Now more than ever, we need to make sure that these technologies are accessible for all, leaving no one behind. This is the focus of today's webinar. We will hear from Christopher Lee. By the way, he's joining us from the USA, 2:30 a.m. his time, and he's up and running. He is the CEO of IAAP, a leader in the field of accessible technologies and a friend. Yuval Wagner, the chairman and founder of Access Israel, who is leading the call for accessible technology in Israel. We will present to you 3 amazing Israeli technologies, and we will hear from inspiring Myanmar representatives sharing their experiences with technologies. I will do my best to keep us on schedule, and I apologize to all the speakers if I have to cut you short. We are going to really try to stick to the time, and I'm sure we can hear you for an hour each, but we'll try to keep it in schedule. We believe that it is important, wherever possible, to make accessibility part of the DNA of an organization, a business, or a country, and make everything accessible from day one. So let's dive into this webinar, start sharing, start learning, and making sure that our future is inclusive for all. I would like to invite our first speaker with opening welcoming remarks, His Excellency Mr. Ronen Gilor, Ambassador to Israel to Myanmar. Ambassador, please.
Thank you very much. Arlo Minglaba. This is to say shalom to everybody. I would like to say how much I appreciate Access Israel. As Michal said, we are doing so many things in the last decade, especially we did it in the arena of the United Nations. But now we have the second opportunity to do it together with Myanmar. And I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate you, Michal Rimon, and Yuval Wagner, and Rani Binyamini, and Sharon Kessler, tremendously. Thank you very much for being what you are. I would like to appreciate very much my partners, Vicky Bauman from MCRB and Maya Muller. You did so well. And my team in the embassy, and also all the people that are here gathering in this webinar about people with disabilities. The rights of the people with disabilities are one of the most important human rights of all. And a society that respects people with disabilities respects itself. And we are like that in Israel. You are like that in Myanmar. And also because I would like to pay tribute to those who are helping us today with the sign language translation, with the simultaneous translation, with the captioning. I would like to say a few words in Myanmar. Please let me, and bear with me for a moment. Myanmar naingne atwa, mathan swan tumia, athon pute, advanced technologies miako, weimya peime, Access Israel ye, second webinar ko, Puinli pay 9 glo 1,000. A conchin tape webinar ko, technologies for business to consumer services, making it possible. Lo kol parde. Dinema Access Israel ka, Myanmar 9 neshi, mathen swan tumyarie, accessibility ne, par win sang jwe nang mu, gantar miarko, promote lo yarma Israel naineye, atwe achom yako, weimye paper me kamya. Myanmar ne Israel naingne toka yinete metswe twe pitbarde. Yangon ka Israel tanyon male, kain mate, sat sa yeko, sat la timya nei ang, chosar nei parde kamya, chezutemare kamya. This is for all the people that gather today here in this Zoom for the people with disabilities. I would like very much to thank you again and to wish us all a great webinar. Chizutemare, everybody.
Thank you very, very much. And I would like to invite our next opening remarks from Vicky Bauman, Director of Myanmar Center for Responsible Business, MCRB. Vicky, please.
Thank you very much, Michal, and thank you, Ronan. Your Burmese was very impressive, but it completely puzzled the automatic subtitling, which wasn't quite sure what language they were hearing. It's a pleasure to be working with Access Israel and the Embassy and the Israeli Chamber for this second webinar. It's something, the question of accessible technologies is very close to MCRB's heart and very close to a number of different elements of our work on responsible business. In particular, obviously, our main objective, which is to see more persons with disability in employment in Myanmar, is often going to be very dependent on the availability of technology to assist them. But we're also interested in the issue because one other area that we focus on is the question of public participation and consultation and ensuring that those processes, particularly when they involve investment, are inclusive of all groups, including persons with disabilities. And this is something that is a priority for us. We see it as an essential part of what we work on as digital rights. And one of the things indeed that we have been part of is the campaign to ensure that in Myanmar, people transfer to the Unicode version of Myanmar font, because that will be the only way in which some of these technologies are able to be made available to screen reader technology. So we're very pleased that progress has been made both on the switch to Unicode, but also on the screen reader. And I think we'll hear about that more from our Myanmar speakers later. And then the other area where we are interested in this issue, which was something I was discussing yesterday on a webinar, is the importance of an inclusive built environment. One of our co-founders, the Institute of Human Rights and Business, has a program called Dignity by Design, which is intended to get everybody involved in the life cycle of a building, whether it's architects, whether it's building users, managers, construction companies, and so on, to get them thinking about inclusion. And obviously ensuring the inclusion of persons with disabilities to access and use those buildings, whether they are offices, shops, cinemas, hotels, etc., is very important. Which brings me on to the final point where I hope we will be continuing to cooperate with Access Israel, which is the question of disability inclusion in tourism. And this is something where the Myanmar government has started to pay more attention to this issue. And I hope that we will have future sharing on this with Access Israel and other speakers in 2021. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vicky. First of all, I agree with everything you said, but I'll focus on two things. One is accessibility is not one thing. Accessibility is really a wide variety of both physical aspects, services, technology, and what we call the human factor. You know, the social accessibility, which has to be the glue that brings everything together. And we are with you, learning from you, sharing with you, and together really making sure that all these boxes are checked and done in the right way. Regarding tourism, no doubt, I can tell you that Rani and I were invited to Russia to the General Assembly of the WTO before Corona time. You remember the time we were flying and meeting people face to face? So during those times, we were invited to speak about accessibility at the WTO. There is definitely a lot to be done in that aspect, and we will be honored and happy to share and bring back together ways to improve tourism on a global and domestic level. And again, I can tell you, and this totally connects to what we're talking about today, technology has a very major role in accessibility in general, but also accessibility of tourism. With that said, I will very happily introduce our next speaker, the keynote speaker for today. As I said, first of all, a friend, Mr. Christopher Lee, Managing Director of IAAP on website accessibility. Christopher is a PhD, serves as the Managing Director of the International Association of Accessible Professionals, IAAP, of Division of G3 ICT. He is an international expert in accessibility field. He is an author, a public speaker on learning disabilities and assistive technologies. Christopher, thank you again for being here at this time, and please go ahead.
You're welcome, Michal. It's such an honor to be here today, and I am with IAAP and G3 ICT, but I am part of the Access Israel family. So I am here on behalf of them. We are going to speak about web accessibility in a very short amount of time, because I have to be the one that keeps that 15-minute, time, right? So here I go. 15 minutes web accessibility. I'm just kidding. What I'm going to do is tell you a little bit about let me share my screen. You should be seeing that. Are y'all seeing my screen right now? Great. So this is who I'm with, IAAP, and IAAP has been around 6 years. It is a division of the Global Initiative for Inclusive ICTs, Information Communication Technologies. Long name. And we have several divisions underneath the G3 ICT banner. G3 ICT started in 2006. And it came about with really the passing of the Human Rights Treaty, the CRPD, Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So its goal is to promote accessibility tied to the UN Convention, CRPD. And IAAP is one of those divisions. And to give you just a little bit of who we are a membership organization that started about 6.5 years and eventually moved underneath the umbrella of G3 ICT. We are based in Atlanta, but we are international, Atlanta, Georgia, in the States. We have individual members and we have organizational members. What's interesting about IAAP, I've been part of the managing directing team for about 2 years now, so it's relatively still fresh for me. However, the interesting thing about what we do is we work across all sectors and all industries. So anywhere from banking to tourism to education to government, we kind of cover the whole gamut, which is really something that I love so much, because there's so many things that cross regarding digital accessibility across all of those, but they're very different depending on the sector that you're in. We do 3 primary things, and this all came out of research when the IAAP was developed. And the IAAP was developed mainly because private industry, government, education, nonprofit organizations were looking to hire people with accessibility knowledge, and they couldn't find these people. And if they could find them, they couldn't tell what level of accessibility knowledge, specifically in digital accessibility, that they had. So they developed the association, hence IAAP, focused on certification, accessibility certification, which I'll get into in just a little bit, education, professional education, and networking. So those are the three pillars of IAAP. And as I mentioned earlier, the founding members of IAAP that came to the table and did all this research where the end result was an association was from all areas. We had banking, we had the private sector, we had nonprofits, we had disability organizational groups that really worked on the whole IAAP. So what you're seeing now is a snapshot of some of the key players at the very beginning of IAAP when we got started. So we're very proud of that. We're very proud that we work across industry. So the other piece of IAAP before I jump into web accessibility is our chapters, which is where Access Israel comes into play. We have chapters as we're growing right now, for about the last 3.5 years, we've been adding chapters underneath the umbrella of IAAP, which is phenomenal. And we hope that with Myanmar in the future, we can partner with y'all to maybe become a chapter or be involved somehow with Access Israel. We'd really like that. The idea of the chapter is to spread the accessibility profession. So that is our whole goal. Get people trained, get people certified, spread it globally. It's crucial in order so we know that these sectors are getting the people that they need to produce accessible products and services, not just in the digital environment, but also in the built environment. About 1.5 years ago, we took on another organization that merged with IAAP. We now have a built environment certification under 3 different levels that we work with architects and so on. I won't be getting into that today. I'm gonna focus on digital accessibility. So I did want to share some data that we have, and this is part of G3ICT. And so G3ICT has something called the DARE Index. And this is the Digital Accessibility Rights Evaluation Index. It's been around for about 4 or 5 years right now, where we collect data from disability organizations within countries. This is just a snapshot of some of the information that we're getting from the country. And then we basically, you can see on your screen that there's the different flags of the different countries, and we kind of do somewhat of a report card in a sense of where they stand. This is incredible data. And whether it's fully accurate or not, it comes into us and it provides us information to go back to the country and work with them on some of the gaps that may be happening regarding digital accessibility, not the built environment. This is not built into it. And Myanmar actually is doing pretty well. Countries are struggling in incorporating digital accessibility throughout their country. There's no doubt about it. It's a very complicated aspect of it, especially web accessibility and all that's involved with web accessibilities, the tools and the technologies and so on. This DARE Index is focused on, the framework is focused on kind of a human rights monitoring. So we look at the country's commitment, the country's capacity, the ability to implement some of these. So this data is 2020 data that we have in for Myanmar. And you can see the breakdown, and I can't get into too much of it because of our time, but this relates really to the web accessibility piece of work that needs to be done. And Vicky, I'd love to actually talk to you in the future about some of this data and dig deep into it. I think it would be awesome to start really looking at where those gaps are. So you have a rating scale you can kind of see, and right now the rating scale is at 42.5 out of 100 for points moving towards disability accessibility. That's actually pretty good. It's something that is, as I mentioned, very difficult. If you drill down to look at specifically the countries and policies, and this is around the implementation, this is where the meat is. This is where we have to start working deeper and deeper. Web accessibility policy. So you rate it from 0 to 5. And some of this stuff may be right on track, but this is kind of what has come into our office at G3ICT. And we have about 140 countries tied to this. So what we're going to focus on, mainly because of lack of time, is the web accessibility piece. So in 15 minutes or in 10 minutes to talk about web accessibility is almost impossible. So this is going to be really high level, but there's a lot of good information out there, regarding web accessibility. And most of it comes from the WC3, the World Wide Web Consortium. and their particular project, which is the Web Accessibility Initiative, WIA. And there are standards and guidelines, and believe me, there's a lot of content to go through. And in some cases, this information is extremely good. And sometimes it's a little bit gray when you start looking at web accessibility. But what we do know, and Mikhail already mentioned this, is we know that 18 to 20% of the population is impacted, whether it's permanent disabilities or temporary disabilities, they're impacted to their access to web accessibility. We know that more products, specifically with COVID, you can't even buy a car anymore by going into a car dealership. You have to do that online now. Things are changing, everything becoming more and more online. So we know it's more and more important. We know that people with disabilities, one of the biggest issues they have is transportation. So having access to the web and all the web tools, the apps and so on is critical. We know that the CRPD, tied to the UN, includes it as a human right, basic human right. So this is something obviously G3ICT and IWP promotes. We know that accessibility supports social inclusion. Older people is a big piece of what we're seeing right now. I just read a report just in the States that our population is declining because of the baby boomers that are getting older and moving on. So things are changing, but the older people that we work with are dealing with the same limitations. We all are going to have trouble with hearing and seeing or mobility, right? Rural areas and developing countries also, web accessibility is something that has to be addressed, and it benefits really all people. The design of how you design your websites and your apps is crucial in the sense of inclusion. And if we do it right and the developers develop it right and the requirement documents are put into place right at the front end, ideally, you're going to have a much cleaner site and it's going to be much more accessible to all people. And it's also good business. It's just good business. I mean, we know that if a website is designed right, search engines are going to rate it higher when you go out looking for a specific topic and you start browsing in Google. And we know this because, when you look at the SEOs, they look at text-based content when they go out there searching. And we know that's great, but if you've got videos, and you've got podcasts that are tied to your website, and if you have transcripts for your podcast and you have captioning for your videos, that search engine, you're more likely to be higher up on your search engine optimization. So there's a lot of good things about web accessibility that I don't think get penetrated to the general developing community out there. It is, as I mentioned, it's web tools, technology. It's all about navigation. It's all about the user being able to navigate and interact with the web and contribute to the web. And if you can't get access to the website, then that becomes a problem. So to drill down a little bit more into these WCAG, and this is part of the WC3 work that I mentioned earlier, is that there's specific standards and there's different levels. There's level A, AA, and AAA. And they've come along. Right now we're at WCAG 2.1. And you can Google this all day long and spend weeks on this information. There's a lot of working groups, volunteer working groups that actually pull this information. But there's 4 primary areas. Perceivable basically means that anybody with any type of disability or functional limitation has access to the website. It could be cognitive disabilities, it could be sensory disabilities, it could be mobility, it could be health-related issues, it could be the elderly, which are tied to those functional limitations. That's it. Operable is a little bit more challenging. It's how do these individuals interact and get access to the web? Do they use a mouse? Well, if they are blind, they're not going to probably use the mouse. If there's somebody who doesn't have limitations with physical limitations with their arms and hands, let's just say, they're going to need to access the information differently. If they have seizures, for example, we need to take into account not to put flash up there and have a lot of flashing objects and so on. So there's a lot here that we have to keep in mind when you look at the operable piece. And you look at this picture I've got here. This is a good example of somebody who has mobility related issues, needs to access the computer in a different way. And they're accessing it through a single switch, which is assistive technology. You have low tech and you have high tech assistive technology. This is really considered low tech. And they're accessing it through a screen scanner. So the screen is, your keyboard's on your screen, your A, B, C, you're scanning. As it scans for you, he's able to hit that switch with his head mouse. So we have to think about the access to the particular, the operability to the different applications. Understandable. This is so basic. It's crazy we don't do a better job of this in general. Developers. I can't tell you how many sites I go to, and the language doesn't convert to multiple languages, or there's a lot of abbreviations on the site, or the reading level is at a PhD or master level, or it's not plain language. It's complicated. So this whole thing about understandable is just common sense. Build the site, put content on it that reaches all levels of reading ability and so on. You also want the navigation to be consistent. You don't want to change as you navigate. So that falls under the second bullet point, and then robust. And you want this, and this is so common. It's even happened recently with a website that we were developing with IAAP. That the website wasn't checked with all the user agents. So wasn't checked right at the very beginning. Of course, we didn't launch it, but it wasn't checked with different browsers. It works with some browsers one way, works with other browsers the other way, and the same thing with media players and assistive technology like the headstick or voice recognition. So these are all things to keep in mind when you look at web accessibility. And if you drill down to the solution, it's really about user testing. You got a group of developers, you have a group of individuals with different functional limitations that are testing the site before you launch that site. It's not that complicated. Sometimes it's complicated to find these users, but they need to be able to use assistive technology on the applications. They need to be able to use them at different levels. A JAWS user, which is the 85% most sold screen reader out there for individuals who are blind, is 85% of the market. You have different levels of JAWS screen readers. People who are blind can use it, they're experts at it, and some people cannot. There's different versions of that JAWS program software that's assistive technology. So you've got to factor all that in. So just to drill down, you can kind of see we've covered this already, a lot of this, but mobility, again, the keyboard access is critical. They've got to be able to do the shortcut keyboard. They're not using a mouse in some cases. And that's something that's really important. And the assistive technology's got to work. Cognitive disabilities like dyslexia, learning disabilities, or intellectual disabilities. Again, that plain language is very important. You want to reduce the text and don't have a lot of text on the website. Again, kind of common sense. A lot of times it's not followed. You want to present things in different ways. You want to have that multimedia aspect for them so they don't have to read so much, even if they're using a screen reading software that reads auditory back to them. And then deaf and hard of hearing for auditory. You want those captions, right? And you want to make sure that if you have a YouTube, there's captions up on that. When you have an archived, you want transcripts when needed and all multimedia, especially podcast and any kind of other multimedia. That's going to be important. The aging, you want to provide enough time. I mean, how many times, and this is so important, how many times do you go to a website, whether you're buying a flight, even though we're not doing that right now, buying a flight or booking a hotel, or going to your bank, and the site times out on you. I'm a horrible speller. It takes me a lot longer to spell things and get things in. I mess up my address all the time. But if you're using assistive technology or you're elderly, it takes you a little bit longer because you're not a good typist. You want to make sure that site's long enough, that site holds up long enough. These are common design tools tied to the WCAG 2.1 standards that are out there. Vision, this is the one that crosses a lot of different angles. It really does. If you're going to put content up, like a PDF or Excel file, whatever, or a PowerPoint, it needs to be accessible on the site. And a lot of times in higher education, which is my background, you see these learning management systems, and these professors put all these PowerPoints up there and all these PDFs, and they're not accessible to individuals with disabilities that use assistive technology to do that. So you've got to be, aware of that. You also got to be aware about color contrast. That's a big issue. A lot of links, just show, blue or green, that you hit that, and people with color contrast issues, that becomes a problem. Markup language, you want to make sure that the assistive technology actually goes through the different headings. So that's something that's so important. You want to make sure that all images has alt text, that they're described, not long descriptions of pictures, but just enough description. And there's guidelines for this on the site that allows the individual to know that that is a picture, especially if it's not decorative. Comorbidity issues, you just because you have a learning disability or cognitive disability doesn't mean you don't have another disability. So you got to factor that into the places. And there's all kinds of different ways of looking at that. But again, if you design your site appropriately from the front end, it's going to be a lot cheaper than having to redo it in the future based on accessibility. So the answer to the problem is including people with disabilities in your testing, in the development of the life cycle of any application that you do, period, end of story. You do that, you're pretty good to go. And as you update these applications, that you still include these people with disabilities for testers. So that provides kind of a very high level on web accessibility. And I do want to say that IAAP—
Christopher, 1 more minute only.
Yeah, has taken a big step in this. We bring in subject matter experts from around the world, and in a very complicated process, we develop certifications. And these certifications get refreshed every 2 to 3 years. And we have a web accessibility specialist certification. You can see up here, I'm gonna close out here in just a second, of the breakdown and the percentage of that certification. You have to have 3 to 5 years of working with accessibility in some way in development or assistive technology. But we're growing these certification people globally, and what's pretty exciting about that, and we have them all over the world right now. We also have an ADS, which is Accessible Document Specialist, which is tied really closely to web accessibility. So I think I'm in my 15 minutes.
Amazing.
I'm not positive.
Amazing.
But thank you so much, everyone.
I would like you to keep this slide for a second. And I really hope when we invited Christopher over to this webinar, and I can tell you that Access Israel is representing IAAP in Israel. And I really hope that one of the outcomes will be somebody, and Vicky, I'm looking at you, raising picking up the glove, as we say in Israel, and really seeing how we can incorporate IAAP in Myanmar also. I have no doubt it will help a lot. So these are the details of Christopher, and I'd love to make the connections. And Christopher, again, have a good night's sleep. You deserved it, you earned it, and thank you very much for
thank you for all the work that you're doing. I appreciate being here.
Bye-bye. Great. So now our next session is going to introduce 3 Israeli technologies, handpicked following our webinar last time. We tried to think what are the things that will be interesting to you, connecting it to webinar number 1. And I have no doubt that you will be impressed as we are of the 3 Israeli technologies we are introducing today. Our first one is a technology that you're already enjoying for the second time. Eran Fishov, Head of Customer Success at Verbit. Verbit is the company who is providing us with the automated AI captioning, both last time and this time. And the potential here is amazing. So Eran, please, we'd love to hear from you.
Perfect. Let me just make sure I can share my screen. Okay, I got a button ready. All right. Can you guys see my screen? Hear me well?
Yeah, perfect.
All right, cool. So hello, everyone, and thank you for joining to today's webinar. I'm privileged to present in today's webinar and share our vision to how our technology can drive inclusivity to the Myanmar markets. And I'll start with a brief introduction. My name is Eran Fishov. I'm the Head of Customer Success here at Verbit, focusing on the education and enterprise domains with over 20 years of experience in customer success and in driving innovation and inclusivity with education and enterprise customers. Verbit is a hybrid AI transcription and captioning platform, combining our own patented speech-to-text engine coupled with professional human transcribers layers. Verbit Captioning Solution provides 99% accuracy to address today's accessibility challenges. And if we closer look at what's happening these days, especially in the education sector, transcription and captioning support not only those who are hard of hearing, but all students who wish to use transcripts or can benefit from lectures with captions. The trend, captioning, becomes more mainstream and will only continue as captions are used by more schools to increase student engagement. We are also pleased to provide the live captions to this event today. So feel free to switch on the closed captions through the Zoom and view the live transcript on the side panel. All right, let me set the stage a little bit to what we're going to discuss. I would start from the obvious question, why should we be focusing on captioning and transcription? And this has been, we experienced such a tremendous pandemic that impacted the whole world and especially the education in the global perspective. How are we as leaders, decision makers, and educators reacting to that? How are we responding to these needs? How are we able to address education needs of all students? And these are main questions that come up. And as we look at what impact that it has been, you can see that 1.6 billion learners globally have been impacted by the pandemic. 91% of those total enrolled learners have had the experience of making the shift from a face-to-face environment to some type of remote learning situation, and all that throughout the 191 different countries worldwide. When we think about this, we come to the inevitable conclusion that we are facing a global problem that requires a reliable and scalable solution. And this global problem can be broken down to many regional differences. And although the concerns are rather common, yet they require each region and each country to act separately in the best way to accommodate the localized needs, such as the gap in students who have disabilities and those who report them. Another one is the mental health of today's students. The third, preparing students for the workload and helping them to become the future ready learners. All of those can be approached in different ways, but they are all part of the common concerns that we face. And so when looking at Myanmar, and as Christopher said, Myanmar is one of the largest landlocked countries in the Southeast Asian region, we evidence a shift towards an inclusive agenda in the higher education. With tens of higher education universities and few 100,000 students, both regular and distant learners, we start noticing organizations like the NESP and the Red Cross launching strategic, well-funded endeavors together with the Myanmar government to strengthen the higher education space and create an inclusive and accessible environment for all students. And with all that, these great initiatives and government endeavors, the very next thing to do is to find the right technology, the right tools to foster this type of engagement. This slide illustrates why Verbit technology stands out and how Verbit really caters the different needs to provide the accessibility to global partners and educators around the globe. The Verbit ASR, automatic speech recognition, is our own proprietary model, combines sophisticated ASR engine to provide accurate, scalable, and cost-effective transcription and captioning solution. Once the ASR engine flow finishes, it produces a reliable first draft. Then our hybrid model involves human supervision layer performed by our large community of professional transcribers that are editing and fine-tuning the transcript to produce the final piece of deliverable, which is a 99% accurate transcript and a timed caption file.
Eran, please finish up. Thank you.
For us, captioning is not just provided for individuals that are deaf or hard of hearing, but we see the captioning is everywhere. When we take a look what's actually happening here, captioning is becoming part of the mainstream. And this is why Verbit technology is the best AI-based transcription and caption solution that drives inclusivity and benefit all students and Verbit will be the best solution to support Myanmar's inclusion agendas in higher education and in the enterprise space as well. And if you have any questions, then we'll be more than happy to answer either here in the chat, and you can reach out to us even later.
We will have time for questions. Thank you very much, Eran. And I think that even beyond the higher education, we can also see potential use of Verbit in other events, company events, seminars, webinars, as we are using it now. So I have no doubt that everybody here can find a connection here, and we will talk about it later. And as we always say, accessibility is not just for people with disabilities and the elderly. And I love finding solutions that are good for all of us. And I think that our next speaker will present such a solution. Nir Aran, founder of Acoustic Protocol. Nir, I'm very excited to hear what you have to say, please.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon. I hope you can all hear me, and thank you for having me this morning. Yes, just as a great segue to what you just mentioned, I think one of the taglines we use is that inclusivity benefits the majority and not just people with special needs for this kind of sense or another. And I think Acoustic Protocol Foundation is based on that. So with the next few minutes I have, I would like to present you our solution called Heroes. Let me try and share my screen here. Okay. So in a nutshell, Acoustic Protocol, first of all, about myself, sorry about that. So my name is Nir, as is not far, and I'm one of the founders of Acoustic Protocol. I'm a sound engineer by education and worked in actually cybersecurity for many years. And until 2 years ago, I decided to consolidate some of my skills and design something that bothered me for many, many years. And we are all, I think, found ourselves at some point confronting a situation, especially at airports in foreign countries, that we try to listen to public address messages around us. And whether it's in the train station, at the airport, even on the airplane itself, we all known to listen to, or at least try to listen to the captain saying one message in one exotic language or another, or some broken English like the one I'm using now. So Acoustic Protocol Heroes is about public addressing. This single sensory event is something that we will try to take to the next generation. We would do that by encapsulating the message. So now it's not just a single event in time, that at the moment we need to be geographically at the physical location and very attentive to the message being broadcasted. So now we can take the message, and I will explain how we do it in the next minute, and make it sort of permanent. Now I can read it, I can re-listen to it, I can have it being translated to me to my preferred language, and I can also be notified if a particular keyword was part of the message. So if I'm going now to Myanmar and I'm after a particular city, obviously I would like to be notified when that city was part of the message being broadcasted. This is what we call a targeted message. So in a nutshell, from technology point, I think this is our secret sauce for a successful deployment. We designed something that is very lightweight to deploy in every authority that wish to leverage this solution. And we can do it from the cloud up to minutes time. So if there is a public address system that interacts with the voice over IP infrastructure, the telephone infrastructure on site, and we know this is the most common way today If you go to any airport, you will see they actually broadcast the message through their desktop phone. That means that we are able to interact with that phone PBX system and provide a service in few minutes time. We provide you with a local number, and that number will now intercept those messages. Another option is to provide you with something we call the Studio unit. The unit is just a thin client component. We send it by post. There is no need for a certified technician to connect it. And all you need to do is just to plug in like a headphone jack to the unit. And from that moment on, as long as the unit is connected to the internet, we'll be able to intercept the messages. Once the messages are received to Acoustic Protocol Console, we start to process them. I think I'll be happy to explain later on or answer any question how we do it, but we leverage very known speech recognition engines. We don't have the AI abilities like Verbit, but we just cling to standard speech recognition engines. And our aim is to take those messages, translate it into specific text, and send it down to a designated app deployed on phones. What you can see here on the right is two channels, one in J Street in the MTA in New York, and one is Grand Central Terminal in New York. Both are active now and broadcasting Heroes messages as they are sent. The console system we have is for the operator to actually maintain for the first time a repository of all the messages. As I mentioned earlier, it's not only that we now able to re-listen to the message, but now as an operator, I can see all the messages, I can process them manually, I can score them. We can provide it with a tool to create what we call a DNA or a lingo for a particular environment. As an example, if one message contained the 122 train, this is by speech recognition engine is going to be recognized as time 1 p.m. and 22 rather than 122 train. So this is kind of the lingo we create for every deployment we set up. And finally, we are able to provide reports about the accuracy level of broadcast. And by doing that, we found out channels or authorities realize immediately who is the best broadcaster and who needs to be somehow enhanced or sent to better translation and speaking options. From implementation point of view, as I mentioned earlier, the Studer component is just a palm-sized unit that is usually placed next to the PA environment and connected by a headphone jack. We deployed the two units listed here remotely, so there is no one on site. And we can just send you the unit, and a few minutes later, we can have the system up and running for this kind of implementation. Finally, from passenger experience, and I think this is the most important thing we're after, is we have a universal solution. So even though it was designed initially for the deaf and hard of hearing, we found out that the next group of people that are very happy to receive the service is the blind and visually impaired, because they are heavily rely on PA systems. They can't read the signs and they listen to the messages. However, if from acoustic point of view or from mindset point of view, they weren't attentive to the message, now they can re-listen through their own phone to the message. A third group is actually people with cognitive disorders, especially if we're in anxiety in foreign country with foreign language, in a hectic timetable, we need to make sure that we were able to listen to the message. And the largest group actually is none of the three I've just mentioned, is us all, that we are all familiar with the not that warm feeling of listening to something that we say, was my name mentioned up there? And not sure about it. And now, for the first time, we can now actually reread it and realize we're on track and on time.
Thank you.
Sure. Finally, last thing about COVID is that we found out few customers of us actually leverage our solution to maintain social distancing. So if until now public addressing was limited to a particular hall or station, now I can be beyond the geographic perimeter, at home even, and listen to the messages. So this actually benefits deployment or getting back to normal for the transportation aviation. And finally, I'll be happy to answer any question you may have later on. As I mentioned, our aim is to become a universal solution for PA systems, taking those to the next generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nir. And I think that if Vicky spoke about accessible tourism, I have no doubt, as you said, that this solution is also very helpful for people coming from outside of the country, speaking a different language, not sure on if they're missing out on something, as you mentioned. So definitely a solution to look into. Thank you very much. Before I introduce my third technology, as you see in the chat, following Maya Huber's presentation, we will have a couple of minutes for questions and answers. So think about questions. This is your opportunity, and we would love to hear from you also. And I'm very happy to introduce Maya Huber, co-founder and CEO of Skillset. I mentioned this technology in our first webinar. I'm very impressed from it, and I'd love for you to see what she has to share. Please, Maya.
Thank you so much, Michal, and thank you for the opportunity to be here and for the support of Accessibility Israel. And good afternoon and good morning and good afternoon for everyone. A bit about myself, and then I will explain you our skill set to create a much more inclusive workforce for all. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Skillset. I am a PhD candidate in the field of occupational therapy, and Skillset was developed after more than 2 decades of experience and practice and research in the field of vocational rehabilitation and supported employment and diverse hiring of me and my colleague and my co-founder, Mo Panfield. We established and managed the biggest project in supported employment in Israel. And we saw through the years the gap between experienced and qualified candidates and the workforce. So basically, and as my colleague said before, our solution also is inclusive and it promotes equal opportunity for all, and especially for people with disabilities, but all kinds of diverse job seekers and actually everyone, because the common CV-based sorting in the recruitment world is becoming absolute, sorry, through the dynamic of the market. And what I mean is, when you look at the CV sorting, which haven't been changed for the last, I think, around 500 years, it's subjective paper that people tell stories about themselves, and it's filtered out by experience rather than capacity and skills. So companies constantly missing opportunities, also job seekers, and there is a mismatch, and you're probably familiar with aspects like structural underemployment around the market. So basically, there's a mismatch around the market between diverse job seekers or people carrying long time of unemployment or people on career change, that their CVs just do not reflect their skills. So Skillset is here to solve that and offer a better new job matching starter, which is much more inclusive and transparent and objective. Our solution is an AI SaaS job compatibility simulation platform that expands hiring opportunities for both sides. Basically what we do is that we provide job seekers and companies with a smart profiling data that, based on proven skills, you will just see it's a platform, a smart simulation test that simulates the main core task of a job and provide the job seekers an experience an opportunity to experience the job itself for a couple of minutes before applying to the job, and decide based on their matching ability and whether they like the job or not, and the matching standard with the environment, and the task themselves. So let me take you through the product. First, prospective candidate enter our platform, is sharing his interests, and then provided with a couple of job simulations that's suitable to his interest with the life experience of the job. You will see here for a minute. This is a minute from our demo of a call center representative simulation, which has already been sold in Israel and the US. You hear it? Or I'm not sharing the voice. Just a second. I want to share the voice. Okay, sorry about that. So here's 301 that the candidate is performing. This is basic call center simulation.
I then respond to the caller and say, your request has been approved and will be sent by mail within 14 days.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. I will wait to receive it. And my license plate.
So it's a short call. This is a demonstration of a short call. A candidate is performing. It's a simulation of around 10 minutes. Candidates performing calls one after each other. He provides data. He answered questions. He summarized the conversation, whatever our call center representative does. We analyze his performance online. It's a job analysis performance and performance-based analysis. So we provide a 360 degrees of data set that is based on tested skills, as I said. So what you see here is the output of the system, which two matching starter, one of them, oh, sorry, it's the Hebrew version. It's a mistake, but what you see the numbers here, the 10 and the 5, is a matching score to the task of the job and the environment. So there's another extra data, explanatory data about how each and every task was performed, what the candidates need to work on, and most important, some recommendation about accommodation needed to be in the environment, training, or any other adjustment the candidates will need in a job space. So when a company receives this skill set profile, they can choose to invite the candidate to interview based on his skills and not based on his stories. On his resume, you're probably familiar with that. Specifically with people with disabilities who've been discriminated, their resumes do not reflect the skills. So we're changing the game here and putting the skills up front. Another thing with our platform, and this is the side of job seekers, is that we are offering a match not only for a specific job, but for different positions based on those proven skills. So you will see here a candidate was performing customer service representative simulation. There are two core tasks that are correlated with billing curve. And when we go forward, sorry, you will see a match. Sorry, something I moved the slide. Anyway, you will see we can offer job seekers dozens of job opportunity in the market that offering not just the specific job, but other positions that reflect their skills and open new opportunities for him. So it's not just a job matching startup, also a job opportunity opener, and provide with companies an opportunity to reach candidates they couldn't reach before. At the end, it's good hiring, quality hiring for both sides. So when you look at our results, and we'll share in a minute, you will see that we're not only providing a different hiring process, but it is a much more transparent and objective, respectful. We want to remove the click and pray method. When you just send your CV and all you have to do is just pray to people to come back to you. So we're transforming the process to be much more transparent and objective, engaging for a job seeker as well as the candidate, as well as the companies, and again, providing a well-informed decision-making and expand opportunities for both sides. We are working as a go-to-market strategy with not only with companies, but also with NGOs and companies that provide service to diverse job seekers as a method for us to reach those pool of candidates and bring them in to companies. So also a tool for all those solutions you have out there, social impact companies, agencies that work with diverse job seekers to expand and express their way to reach companies. And whether this is our goal. So
Maya, really final sentence.
A minute. Just we reduced 30% of recruiting costs. We increased 20% of retention rate, and 25% of our candidates in our pilot were people with disabilities. So the numbers are amazing, and we have working clients in Israel already and working in the US. This is our team, and just want to say, we are here to create a sustainable change in the workforce, not just offer another tool and a game-changer technology, which is much more transparent and objective and inclusive with the better decision-making for both sides. So
thank you very much. Thank you. And now we do have time, especially because I want to hear from you, our participants here. If you have any questions for the technologies, please, let's do it in the chat. And Maya, if you can just point out the names of whoever has a question, or by raising hands. This is your opportunity to really directly ask what is of interest to you. I think the beauty of the technologies that we presented here is the simplicity of implementing them in Myanmar. I think Nir mentioned you don't even have to have a representative of Acoustic Protocol come over and install it. So I think this is something very important. So who's going to be the brave one to ask the first question, please? Maya, do we see anything in the chat?
Not yet.
Not yet. So I will, let's see here. Okay. Any questions, any comments? You don't even have to ask a question. What do you think? What would you like to share with us about what you heard up till now? Is it something that is feasible in your company or in your organization? Is it already done in your organization? I would love to hear that also. Please just unmute yourself and you can speak.
I have one question.
Please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Just introduce yourself, say your name and where you're from.
Okay, I'm from Myanmar. My name is Nyat Sot.
One second, we can't hear you. Can you you're not unmuted, but let's try again. A connection probably problem.
Cannot hear you anymore.
We cannot hear you.
In the meantime, while Sia is trying to fix the connection, let's bring it to another question in the chat box from Utang Tin. Can everyone see it?
If you can repeat the question.
Yeah. Any potential to partner with local firms to bring those fantastic products to Myanmar?
Perfect. Great question. I would like to let's start with Eran. Really, really short answer. Can you partner with the local Burmese Myanmar company, please?
Absolutely. We are looking forward to partnering with any organization, either governmental or corporate, that would like to bring the accessibility into the space. And you can reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to take it to the next level.
Perfect. Neil, your place?
Sure.
I hope I received the question probably. We definitely work directly if needed, but we do support and provision of services through local resellers and distributors. So if your aim is to make us work together with a local representative in Myanmar, yes, that's going to be a preferred method rather than working directly. By doing so, we'll overcome all the challenges of culture and language and others if found. Sure. The answer is yes.
Maya?
Same here. And I just want to add that I think the three of us, but I'll speak for myself, we have a working product. We're ready to sell it. We already sell it in Israel and the US. So any kind of partnership will be just accelerate our ability to move forward.
Perfect. And let's try now with Maiso Don, who tried to speak before. Let's see if we can hear you now. Unfortunately, we have a problem, but I saw, and again, I apologize if I don't pronounce it right, Zomu Ong also wanted to say something.
Yeah, thank you. Just heard from Aaron's about this vivid working with the NESP, National Education Strategy Plan, which is a 10 years thing, which the Ministry of Education is embarking for next 10 years. And yeah, we know that current conversation between the Ministry of Education, educator, so-called educator here, and the disability community is still need to make a long bridge to fill the gap. So how come who is, and yeah, Aaron, your Vivid can play role so that the inclusive education can take place in the mainstream education to take off the connotation that the children with disability needs to go to special school here in Myanmar. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Working with this, I can tell you that how we did it also in the US and also across the UK and Australia. First of all, we did a lot of education to the market. We joined webinars, we joined organizations like Access Israel in all over the world in order to create the awareness from both sides, both from the educators, but also from the students. This live caption that you see today, we provide to students. We are providing over 500 hours a week globally for live transcription for schools, webinar sessions. So the interaction that we have is on three levels. On the government side, with organizations and corporates that promote those accessibility, and with the schools themselves, with the disability department manager, with the accessibility manager, and also with students that create the need. So when we work, and like I mentioned, you reinforced, if we can connect on those areas, we can definitely bring the inclusivity into Myanmar and fulfill this mission also, like we did elsewhere.
Perfect. Before we move on, any other question, comment that you would like to share with us? Because there are so many, you can just unmute yourself and we'll hear that you want to say something. I see that there's a question to Maya.
Yes, so I would just say that for Mayu Yatu, so her question is, when you started this system in your country, did you get any support from government?
This is a question for me?
Yes.
We are backed by the Israel Innovation Authority, but it's not a government fund. So it's a private, private fund all the way.
Perfect. So thank you very much for our technologies. And as we said, first of all, Sharon will upload now in the chat the contacts of these three presenters. And remember, we want to see the ripple effect. So anyone who contacts you, we want to hear about it. This is the best thing about this community, to see how the ripple effect continues and affects. And we will be more than happy to assist in any way with connections and with making sure that, as you said, I think you mentioned, Neil, very well, the importance of not just bringing a product from out of the country, but really making sure that the adaptation fits the culture and the special and unique traits of a specific country. So that is what it's all about. Thank you very, very much. And to our next speaker, I am very, as always, yeah.
Is there space for one more question?
One more question? Okay, let's try it, but really, really short answers.
Yeah, okay. How many languages? Okay.
Yes, Ambassador Gilor wanted to say something. Yes, please.
I'm so just in my car now, going somewhere. I hope that it's not going to be cut. But as I heard Maya and Maya talking about the Israeli government support, I would like to tell you that
okay.
We have you're stuck a little bit. We will hear what you have to say once after
the Innovation Authority in Israel, they for Israel to invest in other countries. 2021 destiny regarding the situation in Israel and the world. But I think that if a Myanmar company would like to see how it can take out of this discussion some ideas regarding.
Okay, this looks like an important point, Maya. So we will bring back the ambassador after Yuval.
In Myanmar, well, we have today for doing some kind of pilot investment in Myanmar. I hope that you heard me, Michal.
We heard you on and off, but and I would like you to, if possible, after Yuval speaks, to re-say it, because I think it's an important point from what I heard. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Yuval Wagner. Yuval is the chairman and founder of Access Israel. Hold on, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
The founder and chairman of Access Israel, the guy that brought me into all this subject, and he will talk to you about the accessible technological future. Yuval, please.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here the second time. It feels better from time to time, and I'm happy that things are progressing, and I immediately, not wasting time, I will share my presentation. Hopefully it will work. You will need to tell me if you will see in a second the presentation itself. Why doesn't it work? Sorry, that's something I have to fix here. Okay. Please confirm that you see the presentation.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the accessible technologies role. And in order to do that, I think the basics regarding this is to understand that it's a business decision, it's the business case that accessible business equal a profitable business. You know, when we're talking about accessibility, sometimes we tend to think that we're doing a favor to the community, to people with disabilities. And it's true, it is very important and very good for the community, and especially for those who live with disabilities and their families, no doubt about it. Even though you as managers, as businesses, at the end of the day, you are looking for the win-win. You're looking to make sure that your business is profitable. And the big question is, if accessibility helps you make the case that accessible business is profitable business. And of course, we think that it's true, and I will explain it in my next slide. The way we create accessible businesses is shown in this slide, where we check what is the interactions that occur between the business and our clients. Bear in mind that, as talked in the first webinar, that we know today that we have 18% clients with disabilities, and also 15% of the elderly are people with disabilities too. So in the world we are talking about between 20 to 25, even they have those that saying 30% of the market is people with disabilities, people that need accessibility in order to be your clients. So the way to serve those people is to check what happens between your business and your products and services and your potential clients. So of course, if you have offices or stores, you have to make them accessible. But then you have to make sure you train your staff so they know how to serve better those that can see, those that can hear, those that have motorical abilities. You also have to make sure that your call centers are accessible to those that maybe for them it's hard to talk on the phone or hard to hear on the phone, and to give them alternative ways to connect with you and get services from you and buy from you. We will also immediately, in a few minutes, we'll talk more about all your technologies that you have in your business to make sure they are accessible and enabling the whole potential of your clients to use them. Also, you have information like brochures, advertising content, other content that is relevant for your clients. It has to be also in various formats. For example, for those that can't see or those that have, it's hard for them to read. Right now, we're not doing so many events, but if you're doing selling events or you're doing webinars, let's make sure they invite and enabling everyone to participate. And of course, the employment that we talked about last time and today, make sure. So by doing that, you have an accessible business that is profitable business, because for the first time, you made sure that everything you do is accessible for all the clients, including the 30% that are with disabilities. So now I want to emphasize on technologies. More and more businesses are using technologies in their businesses. We are going to talk about the technologies that people are using. As you know, they have a lot of technologies that are in organization that are, for example, a robot line that make things automatic, and other softwares that are being used, but it's on the back office. It's not used by people. Those technologies are not relevant for accessibility. When we talk about technologies and accessibility, we look for technologies that need a user interface to make it accessible for the users, for people. So in businesses, we have technologies that are inside the organization that are used by employees. We have technologies that are between the organization and the customers, for example, the website. And we have technologies that are B2B, and we know that today, the more that we employ people with disabilities, we want to make sure they're accessible too, because maybe on the other side, there's someone that needs accessibility. So today, we have the inside organization software, websites and applications between us and our customers. We have a lot of automatic machines, kiosks for money, for information, for ordering things, for checking in hotels, and many others, of course, for drinks and food. But the area of automatic machine is pretty wide. And as we know, and what we're doing and what we are now using a lot, all of us, is a lot of remote video technologies like we're using now, Zoom, that enabling us to connect with various people, either for business or either with our clients remotely. So if we understand that technology is a major part of our business, we have to make sure that all those technologies are accessible. And the best trick or idea is to make sure we do it in advance. So if you, in order to do it in advance, you have to go and implement these steps that I'm showing you right now in this slide. And the first step is that you as managers have to decide that you want to do the right thing. You want to make sure your business technologies are accessible and hopefully accessible by design or accessible in advance. The second thing you want to do is awareness. But I mean awareness in your organization, in your management, in your IT department, in your accessibility department, in your services department. So everyone in your organization, your business, and especially the managers, will know that every time they think about a new service that is based on technologies or a new technology, they will remember the next step, which is buy or develop procedure, which means every organization, as you know, it either buys the new technologies or decide to develop it itself. Either way, if you're buying or deciding to develop yourself, provide this procedure that will make sure that you will buy or develop accessible technology or accessible service that is based on technology. Make sure it's accessible. Put it in your tender. Put it in your request list. But it has to be accessible. After that, if you already buy and develop the technology, implement it. Implement in the organization. And implementation means also teaching either the workers in the organization or your clients how to use it. The next step is when you buy the technologies, make sure they comply to known standards. Lucky you that already in the world, they have a lot of standards that you can already use. You don't have to invent anything. You just have to define when you buy or develop to which standard you are obligated to. As we heard before from Christopher Lee from IAAP, regarding the internet, we are all complying the WCAG 2.1 standard for accessible website and application. In other things, they have other standards, but we don't have to invent anything new. The next thing is testing and making sure that the technology is really accessible. It's not only a promise that the seller promised, but it's actually working. And you can do it either by your employees with disabilities or with outsourcing or your clients too. In our case, we found out the clients love to help companies to make sure that technology is accessible. And the last thing is training. Make sure that people know how to use it and use it. So remember, you have to do it only when you believe it. And I'm sure that if you don't believe it, you truly believe it, you will probably don't go to the steps of implementation. But if you do, we promise you that from our experience in Israel and experience from many countries that are more progressed regarding that, is that you actually in Myanmar have some kind of an advantage. because many things are already ready. Many things are already out there just for you to buy and make some localization efforts to make it localized to your culture and to your language. But other than that, things are being done and things are being there for many years. So you don't have to have all the track record of trying and failing, rather than just taking the right accessible technology and implement it. And my last slide is what about the future? Because in the world, we see that in the future, we understand that more and more new technologies and new services are going to be there to make our lives more accessible. And it's a lot of technologies in the government area. A lot of technologies are in smart cities and cities. A lot of technologies are in businesses. And as a country, I'm sharing with you that in Israel, we are trying to also think to the future and make sure that we don't make the same mistake and again, have new technologies that are not accessible, and then will take years and a lot of money to retroactively fix them. So we're trying to make a new concept of making the future in Israel for new technologies, like automatic cars and robotics and many other amazing stuff that they're promising for our future, to make sure it will be fully accessible in advance by design. And for this, what we are doing as a country, we're trying to legislate a new law, and Access Israel is forming an ecosystem for accessible technologies and promoting accessible technologies, promoting inventions and development of new solutions. And we also are trying to make an accessibility gap analysis to define what the future barriers making future technologies accessible, and many more activities to make sure the future is also be accessible. And again, I'm coming back to the great potential you in Myanmar have is that you have to understand that actually, on one hand, you are behind from what's happening in other countries like in the United States, Israel, maybe other countries in Europe, Canada, and others. But on the other hand, it's never too late. And the big potential is that you can do it fast and easy and make Myanmar, and especially your businesses, use and enjoy the advantages of accessible technologies to make your businesses more profitable. On one hand, more serviceable on one hand, but on the other hand, help a lot your community, people with disabilities, both work using technologies, but also be your clients, buying clients or using your services using those technologies. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
And as Michal always says, we have the pleasure and honor to share with you our experience and knowledge, so you will do it faster and easier. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yuval. And I will dive immediately into—
Michal, we can't hear you.
Can't hear me.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good, thank you. So we will dive right into the next section. And I did ask Ambassador Gilor to join us after the panel so he can repeat what he commented before. I am very, very excited and eager to hear from our next panel. I will invite the moderator, Dr. Zo Mo Wan, the Leprosy Mission Myanmar, TLM, and with him in the panel, we will have Ma Yu Yatsu, who is the co-founder and executive director of the Myanmar Independent Living Initiative, and Ko Win Shwe, I'm really trying, and I hope I'm doing it right, the Myanmar Assistive Technology Center, and the easiest name for me is Ko Chocho, he is the program director and co-founder of the Myanmar Deaf Community Development Association. I'm very happy to have you all with us today. Please.
Yeah. Thank you, Michal, and yeah, thank you, Excellency, and all the participants here today. Thank you, Israeli Embassy and the SS Israel for your timely participation here in Myanmar, making the disability inclusive in Myanmar. So thank you for that. As introduced by Michal, I am Dr. Zo Mo Wan from the Leprosy Mission Myanmar, an organization working with and for persons affected by leprosy and persons with disability here in Myanmar, providing services like physiotherapy and surgical services, medical services, occupational therapy, provision of the assisted devices, including wheelchairs, crutches, prosthesis, and the shoes, etc., etc. So for that, we can discuss later that the technology out there available to be able to use for those areas as well as for the provision of services, because here in Myanmar, the professionals are very limited until this COVID point early this year, 10 months ago. We never thought about the tele sort of services. For person with disability, about 13% across Myanmar, living mainly in rural part of the country, to have a physiotherapy services, occupational therapy services, speech therapy services. For them, the waiting the professional development will take how many decades? So this technology, the tele-reach, will possibly help. So a lot of wide area we can work together. So make it things quicker. I will continue to discuss in Myanmar for my colleagues who will discuss. So ကျွန်တော်အနေနဲ့တော့ဗောနော်ဒီမတန်ဆွမ်းနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ဒီနေ့ဆွေးနွေးကြမယ်ဒီ service ဝန်ဆောင်မှုတွေနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့မြန်မာနိုင်ငံရဲ့လက်ရှိအခြေအနေဘယ်လိုအနေအထားရှိသလဲဒီသူတို့နိုင်ငံမှာရှိနေတဲ့အခြေအနေတွေနဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့တိုင်းပြည်ကိုဘယ်လိုဝိုင်းပြီးတော့လှုပ်ဆောင်လို့ရမလဲလို့ဆွေးနွေးတဲ့အခါမှာဗောနော်ကျွန်တော်တို့မတန်ဆွမ်းမှုနဲ့ပတ်သက်လို့မတန်ဆွမ်းလှုပ်ရှားမှုမတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့သူတွေကိုကျွန်တော်တို့နိုင်ငံမှာလူတွေရဲ့ awareness ဗောနော်သိရှိနေမှုဘယ်နာရောက်ပြီးလဲဆိုတာလဲဒါကျွန်တော်တို့ပြန်ကြည့်တဲ့အခါမှာပေါ့နော်တိတ်မကြသေးပါဘူးလွန်ခဲ့တဲ့2008 Nargis မုန်တိုင်းနောက်ပိုင်းလောက်ကမှသာဒီနည်းနည်းလေးအရှိန်လေးရလာတာကိုကျွန်တော်တို့တွေ့ရမယ်2017မှာကျွန်တော် CRPD ပေါ့ Convention for the Rights of Persons with Disability ကိုကျွန်တော်မြန်မာနိုင်ငံကလုပ်ပါမယ်လို့ကတိကဝတ်ပေးပြီးတော့ ratify လုပ်တယ်ကတိပြုလက်မှတ်ထိုးတယ်2015မှာကျွန်တော်မတန်ဆွမ်းသူများရဲ့အခွင့်အရေးဥပဒေတက်ရောက်လာတယ်အာဏာတက်ရောက်လာတယ်2019မှာ by law ပေါ့နော်နည်းဥပဒေရှိလာခဲ့ပြီးအဲ့ဒီအခုလောလောဆယ်ကာလမှာအခုဒီ SS Israel ကလာရောက်တဲ့ဟာနဲ့လည်းအချိန်ကြိုက်ပဲပေါ့ကျွန်တော်မြန်မာနိုင်ငံမှာမတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့သူတွေရဲ့အရေးအတာကိုပုံမပြီးတော့ mainstream ဖြစ်အောင်အရေးအတာကိုပို့ပြီးတော့ inclusive ဖြစ်အောင်လုပ်နေတာဒါကျွန်တော်တို့ဒါတော်တော်လေးကိုအချိန်ကြိုက်ပါတယ်ဒီလိုအခြေအနေမျိုးမှာပေါ့နော်မြေပြင်အနေအထားမျိုးမှာpublic ထဲမှာပြည်သူတွေရဲ့ကြားထဲမှာမတန်ဆွမ်းမှုဆိုတာဘာလဲပေါ့နော်မတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့သူတွေကိုလူအတိုင်းဝိုင်းထဲမှာအခက်ခဲမရှိဘဲနဲ့ပေါ့နော်ကျွန်တော်တို့လှုပ်ဆောင်မှုတွေကိုထမင်းစားရေတောက်တယ်လို့ပါဝင်နိုင်ဖို့အခွင့်အရေးရှိတယ်ဆိုတော့သိနေမှုလက်ခံနိုင်မှုအတော်တန်အားနည်းနေသေးတယ်လို့ကျွန်တော်ဒီလိုပဲစမ်းစစ်ဝေဖန်လို့ရပါတယ်အဲ့လိုအခြေအနေမျိုးမှာမတန်ဆွမ်းသူတွေကိုယ်တိုင်တဦးတယောက်စီအနေနဲ့ပေါ့ဒီနေ့ဆွေးနွေးရမယ့်ဆရာတို့ဆရာမတို့အနေနဲ့ဒီကနေ့ပြောနေတဲ့ဒီစားသုံးသူconsumer ပေါ့နော်ဝန်ဆောင်မှုခေါင်းစဉ်အောက်မှာconsumer တယောက်အနေနဲ့စားသုံးသူတယောက်အနေနဲ့ဆွေးနွေးစေချင်တာဟို ဝန်ဆောင်မှုပေးနေသူတွေအများစုကျွန်တော်ကြည့်လိုက်လို့ရှိရင်သူတို့တွေကမတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့လူတွေနည်းတာပေါ့နော်တန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့လူတွေများတယ်သူတို့တွေအနေနဲ့မတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့လူတယောက်ယောက်ဒီတခြားသူတွေလိုပဲဝန်ဆောင်မှုတွေကိုလက်လန်းမီရနိုင်ခြင်းနဲ့လိုချင်တယ်လို့ပြောတဲ့အခါမှာဆရာမတို့ရဲ့အတွေ့အကြုံလေးတွေကိုဆွေးနွေးစေချင်ပါတယ်အဲ့လိုဝန်ဆောင်မှုတွေကိုတွားရောက်ပြီးတော့ယူတဲ့အခါမှာသူတို့တွေကဒီမတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့လူတွေပေါ်မှာဘယ်လိုသဘောထားတယ်လဲပေါ့နော်လိုချင်နဲ့လှုပ်ဆောင်ပေးနေသလားဟာဒါမှမဟုတ်လို့ရှိရင်မတန်ဆွမ်းမှုအရန်ကိုကူညီပေးတာလားဒါမှမဟုတ်လို့ရှိရင်တန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့လူတွေကြားထဲမှာတော့မှဒီဝန်ဆောင်မှုတွေကိုမနှဲမနေလုပ်နေရတဲ့အခါမှာပေါ့နော်ဒီမတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့လူတွေကဘာလို့လိုချင်ရတာလဲဘာလို့လက်ရှုပ်ရတာလဲဆိုတဲ့စိတ်ဓာတ်မျိုးနဲ့ကြုံတွေ့ရသလားပေါ့ဒီကိစ္စတွေပေါ်မှာအခြေခံပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်အနေနဲ့ပထမဖိတ်ခေါ်ခြင်းရတာတော့ဆရာမယူရသူပေါ့နော်ဟိုဒါကိုယ်တိုင်ကလည်းမတန်ဆွမ်းအမျိုးသမီးတယောက်ဖြစ်တယ် physical မတန်ဆွမ်းဖြစ်တဲ့အခါမှာဒီမိကုန်းလေးကိုခတ်တူလေးနဲ့ပဲပေါ့နော်ပထမအတွေ့အကြုံလေးဖြေချပေးပါလို့ဖြေပေးပါတယ်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ပါဆရာအားလုံးပဲမင်္ဂလာပါခုလိုမျိုးပါဝင်ဆွေးနွေးခွင့်ကိုဖန်တီးပေးတဲ့ MCRB ကတာဝန်ရှိတဲ့ဆရာဆရာမများအားလုံးကိုနောက်တစ်ခါဒီမှာရှိနေတဲ့ဆရာဆရာမအားလုံးကိုမင်္ဂလာပါလို့ကျွန်မခေါ်ဆက်တာပါတယ်ကျေးဇူးလည်းတင်ပါတယ်ပေါ့နော်ဆိုတော့ကျွန်မတို့မီလီအနေနဲ့ကတော့ဒီကျွန်မအကိုင်ကမတန်ဆွမ်းသူတဦးလည်းဖြစ်ပါတယ်မီလီရဲ့ဒီ executive director ဖြစ်တာဝန်ထမ်းဆောင်ဒီအခုလက်ရှိမှာတာဝန်ထမ်းဆောင်ခင်ပေါ့နော်ကျွန်မ2005လောက်ကတည်းကဒီမတန်ဆွမ်း movement တွေမှာတောက်လျှောက်လှုပ်လာတဲ့အခါမှာကျွန်တော်တို့အဓိကကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ဒီအဓိက challenges ကဘာသွားတွေ့ရတယ်လဲဆိုရင်တော့ဒီbarrier လို့ပြောတဲ့အခါမှာအကြီးမားဆုံး barrier နှစ်ခုပေါ့နော်ခုနကတော့လိုပဲဒီကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ဒီ service တွေကိုလန်လန်းမရယူသုံးစွဲနိုင်မှုဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီphysical barrier တွေရှိတယ်နောက်က attitude barrier တွေရှိတယ်ပေါ့နော်ဆိုတော့အဲ့ဒီမှာ attitude barrier ကလည်းကျွန်တော်တို့တကယ်ကိုကျွန်တော်တို့အတွက်စိန်ခေါ်မှုအကြီးကြီးဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဆိုတော့အချိန်ကလည်း limit ဖြစ်တဲ့ကြောင့်မလို့ကျွန်တော်ဒီပေါ့နော်ကျွန်တော်တို့မီလီကနေပြီးတော့မှအခါအားလျော်စွာကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီရန်ကုန်နဲ့ဒီနောက်တစ်ခါဒီနေပြီးတော့เนาะစသဖြင့်ဒီ115မိုင်စသဖြင့်ပေါ့နော်ဒီလိုနေရာတွေမှာ public place တွေမှာကျွန်တော်တို့ accessibility check လုပ်လို့ရှိပါတယ်ဆိုတော့ဒါဆရာတို့ကျွန်တော်တို့လည်းတချို့သိပြီးသားဖြစ်ပါလိမ့်မယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့2019ကျွန်တော်တို့ဂျွန်လောက်မှာပေါ့နော်ဒီရန်ကုန်မြို့မှာဒီပေါ့နော်ဒီဒီဂုံးကြော်တရားတွေမှာကျမတို့ဂုံးကြော်တရားတွေကနေမကူးဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကျမတို့ဒါဒဏ်ကြေးဆောင်ရမယ်ဆိုတဲ့ဟာတွေထွက်လာတဲ့အခါမှာကျမတို့ဒါစိုးရိမ်မှုဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒီအခုဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီ job opportunity ကလည်းအရင်အတက်ဆိုင်ခွင့်လန်းတွေရှိလာတဲ့အခါမှာကျမတို့မတန်ဆွမ်းသူတွေကအရင်အတက်ဆိုင်အပြင်ကို public ကိုပို့ပြီးတော့ထွက်လာတဲ့ထွက်လာကြတယ်ပေါ့နော်ထွက်လာကြတယ်နောက်တစ်ခါကျတော့ဒီကျောင်းနေဟလာဒီ diploma သင်တန်းနေစသဖြင့်ပေါ့နော်အကြောင်းမျိုးကြောင့်ကျမတို့ public တွေကိုရောက်လာတဲ့အခါမှာဒီကျမတို့ဒီပေါ့ဒီခင်မီဖွံ့ဖြိုးတိုးတက်တဲ့ဒီပေါ့နှစ်30ရန်ကုန်မြို့စီမံကိန်းစသဖြင့်ဒီလိုမျိုးတွေလုပ်နေကြတဲ့အချိန်မှာကျမတို့ဒီလိုမျိုးဒီအမိန့်ကြေညာစာတွေထွက်လာတဲ့အခါမှာကျမတို့မတန်ဆွမ်းသူတွေရောဘယ်လိုမျိုးဖြစ်မလဲဆိုတဲ့ဟာနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ကျမတို့မီလီကနေပြီးတော့မှဒီ accessibility check ဆိုပြီးတော့မှကျမတို့ဒီကလှဲတန်းတို့ပေါ့နော်ကျမတို့တကယ်လူစီကားတဲ့နေရာတွေမှာကျမတို့wheelchair ပေါ့နော်ဒီမတန်ဆွမ်းမှုများတဲ့ wheelchair user တွေနဲ့အတူတူကျမတို့ဒီ accessibility check လုပ်ခဲ့ပါတယ်လုပ်ခဲ့ပြီးတော့ကျမတို့ရလက်တွေပေါ့နော်တွေးရှိလာတဲ့ရလက်တွေကိုကျမတို့ evidence base နဲ့အတူတူကျမတို့ဒီရန်ကုန်မြို့တော်ဒီ YCDC ပေါ့နော်ရန်ကုန်မြို့တော်စီမံသားရေးကော်မတီနဲ့တာဝန်ရှိတဲ့သူတွေကိုကျမတို့ဒါပေါ့နော်ဒီအချက်လက်တွေနဲ့ကျမတို့ပြန်ပြီးတော့မှဒီကျွန်တော်တို့မြင်ကျင်တဲ့ရန်ကုန်မြို့တော်ဆိုပြီးတော့မှအနာဂတ်ရန်ကုန်မြို့တော်ဆိုတဲ့ဒီအလုံးစုံဆွေးနွေးပွဲလေးတစ်ခုကိုကျမတို့ဒီဗီဒီယိုနဲ့အတူတူပေါင်းပြီးတော့လုပ်ဖြစ်တယ်အဲ့ဒီမှာတွေးရှိချက်တွေကိုလည်းကျမတို့တင်ပြဖြစ်တယ်ပေါ့နော် advocacy လုပ်ဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဆိုတော့အဲ့ဒီမှာဘာသွားတွေ့ရလဲဆိုတော့ကျမတို့သွားပြီးတော့ဒီလောက်တဲ့ဟာကိုကျမတို့ရဲ့မီလီ Facebook page ကနေတင်လိုက်တဲ့အခါမှာပေါ့နော်ကျမတို့ပေါ့နော်မထင်မှတ်ထားလောက်အောင်ပဲပေါ့နော်ကျမတို့စိတ်ထဲမှာကဆရာကဒေါက်တာဆရာစော်မွန်အောင်ပြောသွားသလိုပဲ2008နောက်ပိုင်းမှာကျမတို့မတန်ဆွမ်းသူတွေနဲ့မတန်ဆွမ်းအဖွဲ့အစည်းတွေအားကောင်းလာတယ် movement တွေအားကောင်းလာတယ်ဆိုတဲ့နောက်မှာတော်တော်လေးကျမတို့ဒါမတန်ဆွမ်းလှုပ်ရှားမှုကခရီးပေါက်နေပြီလို့ထင်ထားခဲ့ပေမဲ့ပေါ့နော်ကျမတို့ဒီရလက်တွေကိုပေါ့နော်ဓာတ်ပုံတွေနဲ့တကွာကျွန်တော်တို့ page မှာတင်လိုက်တဲ့အခါမှာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီ constructive ပေါ့နော် comment ပေါ့နော် constructive ဒီ comment တွေတက်ကိုဒီ unconstructive ပေါ့နော်မတန်ဆွမ်းသူဖြစ်နေရတာနဲ့ဘာဖြစ်လို့လမ်းမော်ကိုထွက်လာတာလဲပေါ့နော်မတန်ဆွမ်းသူတွေကဒီလိုသွားစရာလာစရာလို့လားပေါ့နော်ဘာထွက်လောက်တာလဲဆိုတော့ဒီလိုမျိုး unconstructive ဒီ comments တွေကိုကျွန်တော်တို့တွေ့ရပါတယ်တော်တော်ဆိုးွားတဲ့ comments တွေပေါ့နော်တွေ့ရပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါကရာခိုင်နှုန်းအဖြစ်နှိုင်းယှဉ်ကြည့်မယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ထောက်ဝက်ကြော်ပေါ့နော်52% လောက်က 52% လောက်ကဒီ unconstructive ဒီဟိုအားတွေကိုဟို comments တွေကိုပေးတာတွေ့ရပါတယ်နောက်တစ်ခါကျမတို့ဒီအပြုသဘောဆောင်နဲ့ကျမတို့ comments တွေကိုလည်းပြန်ပြီးတော့ရေးတာတွေ့ရတယ်ပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒါကတော့ကျမတို့ဒီမတန်ဆွမ်းသူတွေနဲ့မတန်ဆွမ်းမှုအတိုင်းဝိုင်းကဒီဟိုပါပေါ့နော်ဒီသူတို့တွေကဒီ unconstructive approach နဲ့ဖြစ်တာများတယ်ပေါ့နော်တချို့ဆိုရင်ကျမတို့ဒီ campaign ထဲမှာဒီဟိုပါပေါ့နော်အမျိုးသမီးမတန်ဆွမ်းသူတွေတောင်ပါပါတယ်ဆိုတော့အမျိုးသမီးမတန်ဆွမ်းသူတွေအပေါ်မှာတော့မှတကယ်ကိုစိုးဝါးတဲ့ဒီကိုပါပေါ့နော်ဟို comment တွေပေးတာတွေ့ရပါတယ်လို့ဆိုတော့ဒါကကျမတို့အကြီးမားဆုံးစိန်ခေါ်မှုဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဆရာဟုတ်နောက် second round မှာသွားဆက်ပြော
second round ပြန်တော့ discuss လုပ်ပါမယ်ဆိုတော့လေအဲ့လိုမျိုးပေါ့နော်ခုနကလိုပဲအမြင်နဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ဆရာကိုဝင်းရွှေအနေနဲ့ကိုသွားတဲ့အခါမှာလူတွေရဲ့ perception ပေါ့နော်ဒီလူတွေကိုမတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့လူတွေကိုကျွန်တော်တို့နေလားငါလားသူလိုကိုလိုဆက်ဆံသလားဘယ်လိုဆက်ဆံတယ်လဲအမြင်မတန်ဆွမ်းရှုထောက်ကနေပြီးတော့10မိနစ်2မိနစ်လောက်ဆွေးနွေးပေးပါကိုဝင်းရွှေကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်
ဟုတ်ဆရာကျွန်တော်အတန်ကြားလားဆရာ
ကြားပါတယ်ဟုတ်
ကျွန်တော်အဲ့ဒီလိုမျိုးအရာကကျွန်တော်တို့မှလည်းလာဖြစ်တာပဲဘာလို့လဲဆိုတော့သူတို့စိတ်ထဲမှာဟုတ်တယ်မမြင်လို့ရှိရင်အပြင်ထွက်เสียမလိုဘူးပေါ့အဲ့ချိန်မှာပိုသိတာလဲဆိုတော့သူတို့ကားတွေအပြိုင်ဆိုင်မောင်းရတဲ့အချိန်မှာကျွန်တော်တို့ကအနှောက်ယှက်ပေးသူတို့စိတ်ထဲမှာအဲ့လိုခံစားရတယ်ပေါ့ကျွန်တော်တို့ခေါ်လိုက်တဲ့အတွက်ရှေ့ရကားကိုသူတို့မမှီတော့တာမျိုးတော့အဲ့တော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ကလည်းအကြောင်းတက်ရတဲ့အချိန်သူတို့ကလည်းမခေါ်လေကျွန်တော်တို့အကြောင်းအပူနောက်ကျလေပေါ့အဲ့လိုအခက်အခဲမျိုးကတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ပုံမှန်လည်းရှိခဲ့တယ်
ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်ကိုဝင်းရွှေဒါ bus car နော် bus car ဆိုတာဒါ
ဟုတ်တယ်ဆရာ
average ပြည်သူတွေစီးရမယ့်ဟာကိုအဲ့လိုမျိုးဖြစ်တော့ taxi နဲ့သွားပါလို့ပြောတယ်လို့ဖြစ်နေတာပေါ့နော်ဒါပေမဲ့ taxi သွားဖို့ဆောင်းတဲ့လူတွေချမ်းသာဖို့တတ်နိုင်ဖို့ဆိုတာလည်းအဝေးကြီးပဲဖြစ်တဲ့အခါမှာလူလောကထဲမှာမပါပါနဲ့လို့ပြောတဲ့ကဲ့သို့ဖြစ်ပါတယ်အဲ့တော့ကျွန်တော်ကိုကျော်လည်းဒီအတွေ့အကြုံကိုဘယ်လိုမျိုးတွေ့ကြုံရလဲဘယ်လိုအတားအဆီးတွေနဲ့တွေ့ကြုံရလဲတစ်ချက်အမြန်လေးပေါ့နော်2မိနစ်လောက်ဆွေးနွေးပေးပါsign language နဲ့ပြောပါမယ်
ကျွန်တော်တို့မဟုတ်ပါဒီနေ့စကားဝါဆွေးနွေးအမဘာဝင်ဆွေးနွေးခွင့်ပေးလို့စီစဉ်ပေးတဲ့ MCRV နဲ့အစားအဆွေးလို့ကျွေးတင်အောင်ရှုသွားပြောကြတယ်မလဲကျွန်တော်နေနဲ့မှုဖြစ်တဲ့အချာအရုံမတန်ဆွမ်းမှုအခြေခံပြီးတော့သာတို့လူတွေစီဝိုင်းလုံးကနေနဲ့လူမျိုးသားဝိုင်းချမှာဒီပညာသားရောက်ဘာတွေပံ့ပိုးပေးတာမလဲဆိုတာဆွေးနွေးသွားတယ်မလဲဘယ်လိုမှသုံးနေနဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီကျတဲ့ဒီပနာဘာမှအနေထားကဘယ်ကိုရောက်နေပြီလဲဘာတွေလို့နေကြတယ်လဲဆိုတော့အဝိုးအင်းဆုံးဆွေးနွေးခြင်းမလဲမင်းတို့လူလည်းရှိတယ်တို့မတူလည်းရှိနေတာနဲ့တော့လို့လာဆိုတော့ဘာသာကိုလည်းနေမလဲကျွန်တော်မြင်တော့မှဖြစ်ပါလေဒီကျတဲ့ literacy လို့ပြောမယ်ဒီကျတဲ့စာရမြောက်ကြီးကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ထားမိကလူတွေနေနေသိရှင်နားလာမှုမှာအနေနဲ့ဆက်ဖြစ်ပါလေဒါသူပေသားလေအားလုံးဒီကျတဲ့တိမင်းနားလာမှုနေပါနေတဲ့တော့မြေရင်ပေးဖို့အတွက်မထမ်းဆွမ်းလူတွေဘာပဲတောင်းမရှိတော့မဟုတ်ပါဘူးအစိုးရမလဲတောင်းရှိပါလေတော့နေနဲ့တန်ခါလုံးထမ်းတာနဲ့ digital literacy မင်းထားတော့မဟာဗျာရေးဆိုင်ချမှာဘူးလို့အဲ့လိုမဟာဗျာမလဲမထမ်းဆွမ်းသူကိုချလာမထားဘူးအားလုံးချိုးဝင်ပေါင်းစီဖို့အတွက်ထဲသွင်းစင်တော့မှာဖြစ်ပါလေနောက်ထုံးလုံးမှာ digital ငွေချေမထောင်မလုံးငွေချေတဲ့ဖက်ဖက်လူကနေပြီးเราเนี่ยเซฟีนี่ด้วยมั้งเวลาประมาณ5 trillion အထည်ရောက်နေတဲ့ဝိမန်ဒီကုမ္ပဏီဟာကျော်တို့နာမတော်လူမျိုးသားဝါနေကိုတော့ဖနာတဲ့ဝိအကောခုစီတိုင်းတွေနမဝိချတာတော့နဲ့ဘာပိုးကိုညကပါလေတို့ရမှာကတိမဟာဝါရလည်းဖနာနေစီယာစာရထောက်ဝလူလည်းကျော်လည်းဖနာပါလေအဝိမဲကိုဗစ်ကာလတွင်မှာချက်တင်းနေကြလဲမတန်ဆွမ်းလူတွေတော့ဒါတော့ဒီခုရောဂုဏီဖြစ်စေတယ်လို့ပြောလို့ရပါတယ်ဝိမန်ဒီရဲ့ရွှေချောကဒီจิตငွေချေမှုထောက်မှုကိုတို့တိုင်းရယူနာမှုမြင့်တင်စေလို့ချင်းပဲဖြစ်ပါလေဒါပေမဲ့လည်းဘောတို့အခြားမတန်ဆွမ်းလူတွေတော်မနာချုံတွင်းနေရတော့ဝိကောမရှိတာနဲ့ကိုနမပေါမဟုတ်တာထာသနာလည်းချက်လည်းမာဝင်နေတာတော့ဘေးကဘေးမရဆိုလို့ဖြစ်နေပါလေဒါတွေကအရာကနုတော်များပါလေချုံတွင်းရတဲ့စင်ခိုးမိုးကိုစမ်းစီရမှုဆိုရင်ကျော်တို့အနာမတော်လူမျိုးသားဝမ်းတွင်မှာဒီကျတဲ့စာရမှုပါငါလည်းအားနဲ့နေတာအတွေ့အမှာဖြစ်ပါလေကျော်တို့အဖွဲ့အစည်းနေနဲ့ဌာနနဲ့ထမ်းတော်လိုက်ဒီကျတဲ့လူတွေစီကိုမိတင်ပေးဖို့လောထောက်နေတဲ့ဒါပေမဲ့လည်းနာတော့ကဘန်ပိုးခုနေပြမှာပါခြေပဲလို့ထောက်နေမှာဖြစ်ပါလေဒါတွေက သာတုံးသူတွေကိုမဆောင်ပေးနေတဲ့ကိုမနေဘာကထားရချတဲ့ပုံမှာကျွန်တော်တို့ဂျုံတင်နေရတဲ့ခိုက်ခိုက်လေးတွေပဲဖြစ်ပါလေလက်ရှိမှာနာနော်ဆိုကကိုဗစ်ကာလတွင်စီဝိုင်းချဆင်းမှုကိုထားဖို့အတွက် digital စီဝိုင်းနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးဒါကဝန်ဆွေးနွေးပွဲအစီအစဉ်တွေလို့ထောင်ပေးနေတော့ကိုတွေ့ရပါလေဒါတွေကဒါမှန်ပြည်သူတွေနဲ့မတန်းစွာလူအားလုံးတွေတို့ရဲ့ digital တင်မနာလာမှုမြင်ပြီးဘူးနော်ကဆော်ရပြီးနေတဲ့အကောင်ဆုံးတော့မဟာဗျာတဲ့ပဲဖြစ်ပါလေဒီစီစဉ်ကိုချဲပြီးတော့ပို့ပြီးတော့ချဲပဲဖြစ်တော့အောင်လို့ထောင်ပေးနေမှာဆိုရင်ငိုပြနေချေလာကြမှာကွာဟာနေတဲ့ digital တွေမှာကိုကြောချနေမှာဖြစ်ပါလေဒီနေရာမှာလက်ရှိထွေမှာအစီအပါကထွေးနေပညာရှင်တွေနိပညာမြောက်မှုနဲ့တူဘောပေါင်းထားတော့မဆိုရင်တော့ကျော်လို့စီဝိုင်းလုံးဝနေတဲ့သာတုံးတို့ရဲ့နိပညာဆိုင်ရာလွှဲချလို့ကိုအလင်းမြန်ဖြစ်စီပေးတော့အလင်းမလို့ထင်ပါလေအားလုံးထူးတယ်မလဲ
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ကိုတော်ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်အချိန်ကတော့အရန်လဲတိုက်ဖြစ်တော့လေရှေ့ကပြောသွားတဲ့စိတ်ဝင်စားစရာကောင်းတဲ့ topic တွေလည်းအများကြီးရှိတဲ့ခါမှာquickly ပဲပေါ့နော်အမြန်ပေါ့ဟိုမယူရသည်နဲ့ပဲတခါပြန်စလို့ရှိရင်ဝန်ဆောင်မှုတွေအမျိုးမျိုးပေးတယ်အစိုးရပေးတယ်ပုဂ္ဂလိကပေးတယ်မတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့သူတယောက် physical ကိုယ်ခန္ဓာမတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့သူတယောက်ကြုံတွေ့ရတဲ့စိန်ခေါ်မှုတွေဘယ်လိုရှိတယ်လဲပေါ့နော်ဟိုလက်ခံတဲ့ဘက်ကကောကိုယ်တိုင်ကအလုပ်လုပ်တဲ့ခါမှာရောဘယ်လိုအခက်အခဲတွေရှိလဲချက်ဆွေးနွေးပေးစေချင်ပါတယ်ဟုတ်
ကဲ့ဗျာ challenges တွေကတော့ကျမတို့အများကြီးပါပဲခုနကတော့ပြောသလိုပဲကျမတို့လူတယောက်ချင်းစီရဲ့ attitude barrier တွေလည်းရှိတယ်ပေါ့နော်ဆိုတော့ကျမတို့ဒီမှာ challenges ကတော့ဘာသွားတွေ့ရလဲဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ကျမတို့နိုင်ငံမှာအရင်အတက်ဆိုင်ရင်ဒီရှေ့ကိုရောက်လာတယ်လို့ပြောလို့ရတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့ဟိုတိုးတက်မှုရှိလားဆိုတော့ရှိတယ်ပေါ့ဒါပေမဲ့ satisfy ဖြစ်တဲ့အခြေအနေဟုတ်ပြီလားဆိုရင်တော့ပါတော့အများကြီးဆက်ပြီးတော့စူးစမ်းရအောင်မှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်လို့အခုဆိုရင်ပြည်ထောင်စုဒီ budget အနေနဲ့လည်းပဲမတန်ဆွမ်းနေအတွက်ကိုဒါဘီလီယံနဲ့ချီပြီးတော့ချမှတ်ပေးလိုက်တယ်ပေါ့နော်သုံးစွဲခွင့်ချမှတ်ပေးလိုက်ဒါပေမဲ့ကျမတို့မှာတေးချတယ်ဘလောက်ပဲ business company တွေက aware ဖြစ်နေဒီလိုမျိုးဟိုပါပေါ့နော်ဟိုနိုင်ငံမှာလည်းတိကျခိုင်မာတဲ့ policy တွေပေါ့နော်လိုက်နာရမယ် strategies တွေကျမတို့ရှိဖို့လိုပါမယ်အဲ့လိုမှကျမတို့မရှိဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကျမတို့ဒီနိုင်ငံတွေကိုဝင်လာတဲ့ပြည်တွင်းပြည်ပကုမ္ပဏီတွေပေါ့နော်ပြည်တွင်းမှာရှိနေတဲ့ကုမ္ပဏီတွေကဒီဆက်ထားတဲ့ဖြင့်ဒီဟို customer service ပေးနေတဲ့သူတွေဒီကျမတို့ဒါဟိုလိုက်ပြီးတော့ကျမတို့လုပ်နိုင်ဖို့အတွက် law enforcement ကကျမတို့အတွက် challenges တစ်ခုဖြစ်နေပါသေးတယ်ဒါကိုတော့မပေးနိုင်သေးဘူးပေါ့နော်ကောင်းကောင်းကျမတို့ဒါဒီခါတွေကိုကျမတို့ဟို coordination body တခုကျမတို့ရှိဖို့လိုမယ်လို့ထင်ပါတယ်လို့ဟုတ်ကဲ့ပါ
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ကိုဝင်းရွှေအနေနဲ့ကောအမြင်ပေါ့နော်ဒါအခုဆိုလို့ရှိရင် application တွေခုနကိုကျော်ပြောရတဲ့ wave money ပေါ့နော်ဘဏ်ကိုသွားတဲ့အခါမှာဘဏ်ကိစ္စတွေကိုကမ္ဘောဇဆိုလဲ pay တွေပါတယ်ရှိတယ် wave ARP တွေပါတယ်ရှိတယ်အဲ့ဒါတွေသုံးစွဲရတာရောသူတို့တွေကဟိုလူတိုင်းအတွက်ကိုလုံယုံနဲ့ full stop ထားတာလားဟိုတော်ယုံမဲ့ထားတာဒါမှမဟုတ်မတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့လူတွေအတွက်ကောစဉ်းစားထားပြီးတော့လုံနေသလားအဲ့ဒါအတွေ့အကြုံလေးကိုဆွေးနွေးပြပါကိုဝင်းရွှေ
ဟုတ်ဆရာတချို့ application တွေကတော့အားလုံးအတွက်နေပါသုံးလို့ရအောင်တို့လုပ်ထားပေးတာရှိတယ်တချို့ app တွေကတော့မရှိတာသူတို့ဟို design အပြင်တော့ကြည့်လိုက်ရင်တော့ကောင်းတယ်လို့ထင်ရတယ် feature တွေလည်းများတယ်ထင်ရတယ်တကယ်တမ်းကျတော့လူတိုင်းသုံးဖို့အဆင်မပြေတဲ့အပိုင်းတွေသူ app တွေမှာရှိတယ်အဲ့ဒါဘာလို့လဲဆို app ကို develop လုပ်ထဲကစနစ်တကျအဆင့်တွေမထည့်သွင်းထားတာပေါ့နော်စနစ်တကျတော့ accessible test တွေလုပ်တာတော့ဘာလို့အဲ့လိုတွေမပါခဲ့ဘူးလို့ထင်ရတယ်တချို့ app တွေလုပ်ထားပုံကကြတော့အဲ့ဒါတပိုင်းရေနောက်ကျွန်တော်စီက digital money လို့ပြောတဲ့ဟာကတကယ် digital money မဖြစ်သေးဘူးလို့ပြောရမှာပေါ့ဘာလို့လဲဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်က wave money မှာပတ်စံရှိရတယ်အဲ့ဒါဘာပဲလုပ်လို့ရလဲဆိုတော့ဟိုဘက်ဒီဘက်ငွေလေးလွှဲကြုံလောက်လေးပဲအလုပ်ဖြစ်တယ်အဲ့ဒါလည်းဘာမှကောင်းကောင်းဝယ်လို့မရဘူးတကယ်တမ်းကျွန်တော်တို့ကပတ်စံကင်နေရတော့မယ်အဲ့ကင်နေရခြင်းကလည်းဖြစ်နေနည်းနည်းလေးအခက်အခဲရှိတယ်ဘာလို့ဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်စီကပတ်စံရွက်တွေကမမှန်ဘူးလေနော် site တွေကဘယ်လိုခေါ်လဲတိတိကျကျထုတ်ထားပေးတာမဟုတ်ဘူးတထန်တစ်မျိုးနဲ့တချို့ site တွေကတထပ်သေးတွေဖြစ်ဆိုတော့တကယ် digital money အစ်စ်ကလည်းကျွန်တော်တို့ကမရောက်သေးဘူးပတ်စံကလည်းသုံးနေစေအဲ့ဂျားထဲမှာဖြစ်နေတာကျွန်တော်တို့ကနည်းနည်းအခက်အခဲပူဖြစ်တယ်တခုဆိုရင်တခုတည်းတိကျတဲ့ဟာဆိုရင်ငွေကြေးစနစ်ကဖြစ်မယ်ဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ကနည်းနည်းပို့အဆင်ပြေတယ်ပေါ့ပုံမရောက်ဒီမရောက်ဖြစ်နေတယ်ထင်တယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့ငွေကြေးစနစ်ကဟုတ်ဆရာ
ကျေးဇူးဟုတ်ကဲ့ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်ကိုဝင်းရွှေအခုလိုပေါ့နော်ကိုဗစ်ကာလမှာ online platform တွေလူတွေကြည်ကြဲသုံးလာကြတယ် online နဲ့ပေးဖို့လည်းနိုင်ငံတော်ကနေအားပေးနေတော့ညာလည်းပဲပေါ့နော်အထူးသဖြင့်မတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့လူတွေအမြင်အာရုံအထူးသဖြင့်ပေါ့နော်တန်းတူညတူသုံးစွဲနိုင်အောင် society အနေနဲ့နိုင်ငံတော်အနေနဲ့ပုဂ္ဂလိကကဏ္ဍတွေအနေနဲ့စဉ်းစားပေးဖို့ပို့လို့ရဆိုတာလည်းကိုဝင်းရွှေ highlight ပြပါတယ်အခုဘလော့ဆယ်မှာရရှိခံစားနေရတဲ့ accessibility လို့ပြောမလားအဲ့ဒါတွေကကိုဝင်းရွှေပြောပြတရားဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒါမတော်တဆဖြစ်တယ်လို့ပဲပြောလို့ရမယ်ထင်ပါတယ် intentional ပေါ့နော်တကယ်ကိုမှ ရည်ရွယ်ပြီးတော့မတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့သူတွေပါလုံနိုင်အောင်ဆိုတဲ့ဟာမျိုးလုပ်ထောက်ဆိုရတွေ့ရတဲ့ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်ကိုဝင်းရွှေကိုကျော်ကျော်အနေနဲ့ရောဒီနေ့ပေါ့နော်ခုနကတော့ကိုကျော်ကျော်ပြောချင်တဲ့ဟာတွေလည်းဒါတော်တော်လေးလည်းကြည်ကြဲပြန့်ပြန့်ပြောပြီးသွားပြီservice ပေါ့နော် consumer လို့ပြောတဲ့အခါမှာဒီနေ့နိုင်ငံအနေနဲ့လည်းဒါအရေးကြီးတယ်လို့ထင်ပါတယ်အထူးသဖြင့်သတင်းအချက်လက်တွေကိုပေးတဲ့အခါမှာအရေးကြီးတဲ့သတင်းအချက်လက်တွေကိုမတန်ဆွမ်းတဲ့လူတွေအချိန်နဲ့အမျှရနိုင်ဖို့လိုတာပေါ့နော် sign language ကအဲ့လိုမျိုးမှာလွယ်ကူကူကြည်ကြဲပြန့်ပြန့်ရနေသလားနားမကြားတဲ့လူတွေအားလုံး sign language ကိုတတ်ကြသလားပေါ့နော်သုံးနိုင်သလားအဲ့ဒါလေးကိုလည်း10မိနစ်2မိနစ်လောက်ဆွေးနွေးပြပါခင်ဗျာ
တို့နာမကြားလို့မတော်ဝမလဲအခက်ခဲလိမလို့ရှိပါလေမsign language လက်တငေါပြောဘာသာစကားကိုနားလေတာလူလည်းရှိသလို sign language မရတဲ့နာမကြားလည်းရှိတော့တော့တရင်တွေချက်လက်ကိုချိန်တဲ့တပင်းနီတို့လည်းမရောက်နာမတော့ဆိုရင်တော့အခက်ခဲလေးတော်တော်လေးရှိနေပါလေလက်ရှိမှာဘောတို့ကိုခင်းတဲ့ပတ်သားတဲ့တရင်ကိုပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒီတရင်ကိုလက်တငါနဲ့ဘာသာပြန်ဆိုပြတော့အပွဲကဝတ်ထားမာလွင်နေပြီနားလေးရှိနေပါလေဒီကို social media မှာလည်းလွင်နေနားလေးရှိနေအမေထားတာပါမလဲ sign language များတဲ့နာမထားလေးနဲ့ဒီတရင်ချလာလို့လည်းမေးရတာဘာမရောလွမ်းနေပါသေးတယ်နာတော်ဆိုရရဲ့ကျိုးတဲ့စီစဉ်နေတရင်ချနာချလာတော့မစာရန်တို့ခေါ်ပါလာတွေ့နေပါပြီအဲ့တော့အချူတမလဲအမေမရောလို့တော့ပါဘူးဒီတော့ပို့ပြီးတော့ချဲတဲ့ပဲမြန်ထောက်ပြီးလို့နေပါသေးတယ်ဒီနေ့အမနာတော်ဆိုရပါကလည်းဦးရေပါဆိုင်ရပန်ပူမှုတွေဖေးစီပေးမှုတွေအားရလေးလဲလူနေပါလေချူတမလဲ
ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်ကိုကျော်ကျော်ဟုတ်ကဲ့လိုအပ်ချက်တွေတော့တော်တော်လေးကိုရှိပါသေးတယ် inclusive ဖြစ်ဖို့အတွက်ခုနကတော့ tag line ပေါ့နော်tag line ကတော့ making history accessible ဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့က making Myanmar accessible လို့ပြောဖို့အတွက်ကိုကျွန်တော်တို့လုပ်စရာတွေတော့အများကြီးပဲလိုသေးတယ်ပေါ့နော်ဆိုတော့let me concludeပေါ့နော် the panel discussion experience from Myanmar. It is encouraging, very encouraging to hear that many technologies are possible for you to move everything online given that introducing many technologies are introduced and applying elsewhere. We don't need to invent from the beginning. We don't need to invent the wheel. So we just need to grab to use those here in Myanmar as we move on. But the question is, here in Myanmar, how can we strategize those available blessed technology to widely use so that we can change the attitude of the people. Siyama Yuyatu just said that there are barriers, physical barriers, attitudinal barriers. So webinar like thanks to MCRB, bringing in people from the wider walk of life and sector, society, to understand that person with disability have a right. They need to be have an equity, like you and me, who are granted to receive any kind of services, be it from government or be it from private or be it from individual level. They need to have it and get it, not to produce a special treatment, special arrangement, which many persons with disability are experiencing. For example, when they go to bank, they say, oh, we will make a special application for disabled people, which is outrageous or it's not walkable. It is not walking like that. So here in Myanmar, let's work together, all coming hands in hand together so that we can have a strategy, we can impact more and making Myanmar accessible. Thank you all.
Thank you very, very much. That was fascinating. And I totally agree with what you said, Doctor. Here in Israel, we did exactly the same thing. You don't need to invent a wheel when a wheel already is rolling somewhere else. You have to make sure you choose the right wheels and adapt them to your culture and your country and start rolling. That's the whole idea. So thank you very, very much. And again, we are here together. We will be able to go forward, move forward, share, and keep this going. Before I say the final words, and I must say that I'm very proud because we are almost to the minute on time, and I really appreciate that also. I would like to invite Ambassador Gil-Or to repeat what he said and maybe say a final note for this webinar. Ambassador?
Do we have... Just a second. Yes,
I'm with you. Are you with me?
Yes, we are. We hear you well.
Okay, I hope that this is not going to cut now. So I really appreciate all the speakers. And actually, I've heard very carefully and very interestingly also Yuval Wagner, who talked so nice about the Myanmar connection with accessibility and accessible technologies. And I think that this is very, very right. I think that what I said before is that as Maya talked about with Maya Innovation Authority, so the Innovation Authority, and we'll see about it in 2021, what would be the continuation of that. They have what is called the pilot investment from the Innovation Authority for Israeli companies and technology in other countries. So the follow-up of today webinar can be this kind of thing. If a Myanmar company would like to have a good relationship and to seek the opportunity of an Israeli technology from the three technologies that we saw today or others, we can see how we can go into this bilateral collaboration with the Innovation Authority and with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because we can also help in this way. As you know me, and some people know me already in Myanmar, I'm very practical, and for me it's very important, like you are, so important is to follow up and to find the ways to continue and to leave the webinar to leave him today to be with us and to hear from Access Israel and to speak for Myanmar to Access Israel and to the technologies that came with you guys. So it's very important that we can continue with this. And I think that this webinar and the previous one was a great success. I understand that we had today at least 70 people that came to the webinar. Some of them are leaders in the Myanmar economy, like people also from the Myanmar-Israel Chamber of Commerce. And we got the opportunity to know so many people because of this webinar with Access Israel. So the doors of the Israeli Embassy and the Myanmar-Israel Chamber of Commerce are very open. We have as great partners Access Israel in Israel. And this is not the last note of this relationship. I'm sure that this relationship are going to continue for the respect and the honor of so many people that are within our society everywhere, people with disabilities. Thank you very much, Michal, Yuval, Rani, and Sharon, as I told you before. Thank you for Vicky and Maya, everybody else, and all the representatives of so many organizations and companies all around Myanmar. Thank you very, very much. And I'm sure that we are going to continue to be in a very good relationship. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Ambassador, to you too. And just a final note. First of all, I have no doubt that there is grounds here for continuation, as the Ambassador said, both virtual, digital, and face-to-face. I would love to come and see and meet and really try to see how we can continue this in the next stage, post-corona. That's number one. Number two, all of you are now part of this amazing network that is growing and growing from all over the world. And I would like to personally invite you all to our next webinar that is going to also be connected to technology. It's focusing on technology on January 26th. Sharon will send you a link to the registration. I know that the hours are a little off, but they are still, I think, possible for Myanmar. But if it is possible both to join us live or register and receive a link to the captioned version afterwards, we would love to see you there also. And if you have any thoughts following this webinar, things that you would like to know more, learn more, please, you can use through the ambassador's office, through Vicky, or directly to us. Send us, talk to us, write us. We would love to see how we can join hands and assist further. So thank you very much. Very short delay this time, and I'm appreciative to all our speakers for really standing in time. And thank you for our interpreters and translators. You were amazing. And you know, a good picture for the end of the webinar. I would invite all of you to clap your hands for the speakers, for the interpreters in sign language like this. Everybody, please. And Sharoni, this is a good photo op. So let's take a picture. And really, guys, I'm looking forward to continuing this relationship and this connection. So thank you very much. Have a great day or good night if Christopher Lee is still on. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
And all.
Thank you, Michal.
Thank you, everyone.